Hello, welcome back to the local lift. We have with us a guest, Anthony. Don't know how to pronounce his surname, which is worrying because I've worked with him and I've known him for many, many years. So, how do we pronounce your surname?
Anthony Leung. Although I will tell you right now, my gym membership from about 10 years ago says Anthony Leving. I don't know how they messed it up. So, so you're not
Many,
the first one. It's all good.
many times I'm called Gary White, so I'm not going to get too stressed about that particular fact. And it's amazing how many LinkedIn requests are, "Hey Gary," and I'm kind of going, "Hey Frank," but they never quite get the joke. And we have with us, of course, Natalia, who is our content editor. And yeah, so let's get started. This one, we're going to be talking about social and local and why social is important to local and how Anthony, with his many years of experience, can tell you exactly how to do it better. So you're the founder of Mean Right Hook, which is an agency. It's relatively recent, but you've got like 13 years of experience from places like Just Eat, Rackspace, Pret, and so many others. So, it's not like you're kind of new to the block. In fact, like I say, we actually worked together 10 years. I don't know how many years ago it was, but it was many, many years ago. It certainly wasn't 13 years ago, but it was quite a few years ago. In fact, one of the things that we do is something called the elevator pitch, which means that basically you kind of introduce your brand in however many seconds an elevator pitch is supposed to be.
Oh, there it goes. All right, cool. So, I guess I'm in the lift. Yeah, as you heard from Jerry, got 13 years of social media experience with brands like Just Eat and Pret. And what I've learned from working with those brands is that each brand has its own story and each brand has its own tone. And so every time you tell a story with those different brands, you need to respect that story and you need to respect their tone and the character that they have behind those brands. And so that's what I bring into Mean Right Hook, which is helping business leaders on their LinkedIn. I take all that experience and I apply that to a personal brand, and so that you elevate your see what I did, elevate your personal profile, and you're more present and you're more visible in your community, in your industry, and so your LinkedIn finally works for you. Because a lot of times we're stuck not doing LinkedIn because we're afraid of being cringy, or we're afraid that we need to sound like Gary Vaynerchuk. We don't. The important thing is the same thing that I do for brands, for Just Eats, for the Prets, which is find and understand your story, tell it well on the platform you're trying to be influential, and start communicating it and being engaging in that platform. So that's what I do. If people want numbers, I've helped clients to have three times more. Hold on, how does it go? Three times more reach through five times more engagement. I've practiced this, I promise you. But that's all because, not because of some hack, not because of some algorithm thing that we discovered. It's all about storytelling. So, and that's why we're here to talk about local marketing, because I'm actually quite excited about this, because I've now shifted over to LinkedIn, but I've spent a lot of time in doing the classic, if you will, social media channels like the Instagrams and the Facebooks. Even have a video on LinkedIn with 1 million views. So I've done my time. So let's share some of this stuff.
That's pretty awesome. Okay, so let's start with local then. How should local brands be targeting? They should have like a separate account for each local location, or should they have like a national account? In fact, I mean, Natalia and I were sort of chatting about the fact that, the local climbing wall has got a local brand, but, the Just Eats and the McDonald's and people like that, they would never go kind of that local.
Well, some of them do, I suppose, and some people go rogue, right? I remember, what's that shop with the soap that smells? You can smell it from a mile away. What's that called?
Lush.
Lush,
Lush.
Lush,
Yeah.
Lush, Lush, Lush went rogue. When TikTok first started, all their local shops decided to do their own TikTok. It kind of worked from that. But I also want to think about it in two perspectives, I suppose. One is, as a big major brand, if you do all little local accounts, you're building influence in little bits, but you're not building the big picture, right? You're not saying, the guys I work for, the Prets and the Just Eats, it's like there's a Pret in every corner of London, but there's two there's one actually over in Greenwich where I am, right? And if you're just building influence and your community and connections there with your social media, you're not telling actually the bigger picture, which is, we're sourcing these amazing ingredients from the UK. Where the shop in Glasgow it has the same ethos as the one over here, and the interactions you have with your local press is across not just the UK, but we're now expanding into they're in Canada. They're in Dubai. And it's like there's a big brand story that will get missed if you only focus on the local story. So there's a case to tell both stories well, right? Because one is about authority, not authority, but it's like it legitimizes your business as a global brand, or as a bigger brand than just your local shop. But at the same time, it's those local interactions that's going to be so meaningful for the people just in that shop, right? So what I like to take an approach what I call like the world's biggest mom and pop shop, right? Which is you got to feel huge, and you got to have your presence known around either the country you're in or internationally if you're international. But you also need to be able to feel like when you walk into the store, you're the only one that matters. And the things they do in the shop is just for the community. So yeah, that's how I see social media playing for big brands with local presences. That's not a word.
Yeah,
I'll play that on Scrabble board, but let's see what's up.
Yeah, and Natalia copy edits half of the stuff that I write for the website, and basically, one comes out the other end is completely different. So yeah, don't trust me for anything. I'm still arguing over octopuses or octopi. Yeah, no. One of the things that I do hate actually is the fact that you do get like local accounts that haven't been updated in 2 or 3 years. So it's surprising how often I kind of look around and I follow the local account, and it's like, oh, it hasn't been updated, but they've got a national account which also hasn't probably been updated. So dead accounts on social media is one of the things that I do kind of hate. But
yeah, you know what the problem is, right? Is that if people go, oh, we're opening a new shop, we need an account, or the local shop goes, oh, we really need a presence, I wouldn't connect with the audience. And so either the national brand doesn't support that, and they go rogue and they create their own thing, and it becomes something else completely, and then they lose interest, right? And they're like, it was a pet project of somebody in the shop, or somebody in the shop was really good at it. That person either left or gets promoted, and their job is different, and all of a sudden they're like, well, what do we do with this thing, right? And I think that's a huge detriment to the brand itself, because all of a sudden you've got a presence that no longer exists, and they're like, I don't know what happened here, right? What are they doing okay? Why aren't they updating? They were so funny 3 months ago, and they all disappeared, right? So I think that it does need that support from the mothership, if you will, in order for a local account to go. And there's so much you need to do. I don't think people understand how much work goes into running an account, right? When bring it back to Pret, right? When we opened up Veggie Pret as a pop-up, even just as a pop-up, we debated on the idea if we needed a separate account for Veggie Pret, because the ethos was different, right? Not just the local location, but this was the first major brand to take a major step in creating vegan only food, or vegan vegetarian food. So it's like no meat, and that's a big deal. At the same time, our social media team was not going to be able to handle 2 accounts. We were already having our hands full with one, and so if we created a separate account, that's a lot more work that no one else is going to be doing. Or you just drive your team to the ground, and that's no good either. So what we ended up doing was, expressing Veggie Pret through the main Pret account, telling that local story, and telling it on the big account, right? And that's cool too, especially for that, because that was a major statement for the brand, and that kind of went through, has a through line through the values. So it made a lot of sense to tell that story.
I think you're right there. I think part of it there is basically down to the audience as much as anything. Like, does the audience overlap? Should the audience overlap? And for veggie, I guess, the veggie Pret people are the same as the Pret peoples. There's sort of the overlap is there. I'm trying to think of other examples where companies have kind of split their brand up a lot more, but I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'm sure there are loads. I mean, Just Eat, for instance, we did have Just Eat as the main brand, and then we had Just Eat engineering and development sort of team they had their own Twitter account, that's a good question. Is it Twitter or X?
I don't know. Every time I say X, I want to take a shower, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm struggling to call it X, if I'm honest. So I'm going to carry on calling it Twitter, at least for this first few podcasts, at least. So, yeah, okay. We've mentioned mainly organic so far, and one of the things about sort of local is the fact you can go hyper local with paid much more than with sort of organic. It is something that I know that you've kind of about, but is your passion often seems to be more an engagement in terms of the organic side of it. How do you feel about the paid stuff? Any suggestions, recommendations?
Yeah, I think paid has a big place to play in local marketing, right? Again, there's with a big kind of brand account, there's a lot of stories you need to juggle. But I think the key here is to be meaningful in that local area, right? And I think you shouldn't look at an ad and go, oh well, it's an ad. Who cares about engagement? That is still important, right? And it's the reason why it's important is because someone doesn't just look at it and goes, oh, a new Bob's chicken shop just opened. It's like, oh, cool, like they're doing something different, or they're doing something for the community, or they're in my area. I'm so damn proud, right? Or you can even play it differently, where where you are more meaningful to the viewer, to get them excited. One example I've got is this TikTok ad I've been targeted with, and I'm gonna have to get this right. It's a German schnitzel restaurant, but it's done with Mandarin Chinese targeted to me. Now, my Mandarin is not that great, but I have been kind of dipping into Cantonese content recently. So the algorithms goes, oh, there's a good shot. He likes this stuff. But that shop has the foresight to go, and I guess the ability to even think about going, we want more people who speak this language, or we want more people in the shop, and we want to speak to the viewer the best way possible. They understand, that they can relate. And so they created a whole video in Mandarin Chinese about German schnitzel, and go visit this shop. And that blows my mind. I think that's amazing. I think that's a great example of how to use paid in a local setting, into getting your brand known in that area, right? And just to be, how do I be the most meaningful to the viewer about my shop or about my brand, right? And it's viewer first, right? It's always viewer first. Another way I think about doing it is, so again, I bring it back to my days at Pret, because we opened up a lot of local shops all the time. And you can't always bring the local stories into the main organic feed and the content, because or else that'll be the only thing you talk about. And it's like, oh, I know you're big. I know you keep opening new shops. That's cool. That's enough, right? But when we open new shops, they do an activity where they kind of give away free foods, and basically a soft opening, right? And to hype it up, there's two things that's done. One is they have people handing out flyers in the tube station and saying, "Hey, new Pret's opening. We're doing something. Come on this day at this time and get some free stuff, right? Free stuff on us. Wonderful." The other is to do a paid local. At the time, Facebook, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever it is, use paid social to kind of amplify that message on social media, because people are on their phones. If they don't see your guy hanging your flyers, they will see it on your phone, right? And by doing something special for the local community, and you're hyping it up with paid social, it brings that awareness up, right? And for that particular activity, there was a massive lineup, and I think we may have run out of food. And we went, the shop opening went into local press, and it was a great launch because of that kind of local awareness, right? So I think that's a great way to kind of use paid into that.
Perfect. And the other thing that we've been talking about a lot actually already is, I mean, you've mentioned quite a lot of B2B kind of stuff. I mean, you're historically quite B2C in a lot of the work you've been doing, but at the moment, it seems like you've been focusing more on like the B2C thing. B2C has always been traditionally very, hey, would you like to download my white paper on a particular subject matter? And it's great to see that you're kind of telling people that they've got more of a story, more of a reason to engage in other bits and pieces. So you're seeing B2B as being quite a big growth, aren't you?
100%. Gosh, like it's surprising to me how different of a world it is when you cross over to B2B marketing. It feels almost like it's like a multiverse. It's like, what happened? Like, did we stop wanting to be interesting? Did we stop wanting to be meaningful to the people that are reading this or watching this? Because it's the same, right? It's content to me has always been about good storytelling, right? It's about clear communication. It's about simplistic understanding of a complex idea, right? If we dial back to Just Eat again, it's like, but when it first started, this whole ordering takeaway from a website is new, and it's hard to understand when it's new, right? And I equate that to any tech company that's trying to do, explaining their technology and all that stuff, right? Through social media, through blogs and all that stuff. And the problem is that a lot of companies and people in general are very invested in long form content, the blogs, the webinars, the podcasts. And when they throw it onto LinkedIn, they just throw a link and go, "Hey, look, I did this long thing. Go read it." And it's like, I don't have time for this. Tell, please tell me quickly why this is meaningful to me before I even consider spending another minute on this piece of content. And that's, I think, the key thing that a lot of B2B marketers kind of fall flat on, is that we put ourselves and the brand first, and we write, like, "Oh, look, we did this thing, and please click on this thing." And it's like, no, just, can we please tell them why it's important, why it's exciting to read, before you ask them to invest any more time into your piece of content, right? That's the same things that we did at Just Eat, at Predator. Any B2C brand, any good B2C brand knows this, is that it's not about your brand first, it's about the customer first, right? If your piece of content doesn't communicate why it's worth their time in the first 2 seconds of that piece of content, they're going to skip it. Because I already know that in TikTok, oh my God, TikTok is amazing at this. The algorithm, it's like, yeah, I know if I scroll just a little bit, there's a piece of content I know that's gonna be good for me. So yeah, you've got to front load that with value.
I'm just going to rant for 2 seconds, right? Do you know what I really hate? Is when you get halfway through a TikTok video and it says, now you've got to like watch the second part. And I'm like, no, I just can't be
It's
asked
how they
anymore.
get you. It's
No,
how they
I
get
don't
you
want to do
onto
it.
their
I literally
profile.
block every single one of them. It just irritates. Right, Natalia, you've got a few questions, haven't you?
Yeah. So I think obviously one of the big things in content and marketing in general at the minute, and the world, I guess, is AI. So how would you kind of say it's being used in social media, and what are the benefits for certain businesses that want to get ahead of the curve? How can they use AI to do that? And would you say there's any drawbacks and challenges with it?
I'll tell you the wrong way to use AI.
Yep.
And I think that's a lot of people, their first thought when they think AI and social media and content in general is like, "Oh, finally, I don't have to do this anymore."
Yep.
Like, it's like, "Oh man, I just tell this robot to like, hey, could you tell me, could you write 5 things about the industry I'm in, and can you just post that?" I saw a TikTok video of all places, right, where this girl was bragging about how she was helping her partner's LinkedIn, and what she does was she automated the whole thing where um, it asks ChatGPT to come up with a subject every day, then create a post about that subject, about that field, and then post it on the person's feed. And hey, we're winning. Really? Are you sure? They don't even look at it. They don't even edit. It's not their thoughts, right? Two things that come from that. One, ChatGPT has not got to the level where we can let it loose and go, just write for me, right? Because the subject is not right. A lot of times it's not niche enough, and the tone is definitely off, right? And the second thing is, can you imagine if you get famous for doing a hot take on something that you didn't originate from you, and all of a sudden your customers are coming to you and going, "Oh, cool, let's work together. Hey, that thing you said was great. Can you tell me more about it?" And you're sitting there going, "I don't know. Let me ask the robot." Um, that's 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 trying to cheat the system in a way that is disingenuous, and you will be caught out. That content will not get you engagement because it does not sound like you. It will sound like a robot. The dead giveaway is usually when the post starts with "in a world where blah blah blah." It's
Yeah,
like,
in a
wow,
world
really?
or in the
Yeah,
realm.
in the realm of
In the
in
realm.
the world of local marketing. And it's like, wow, dude, this is a LinkedIn post. It's not a movie trailer for the next Marvel movie. So calm down.
I think
But
one of the
yeah,
things we
yeah. Just go ahead.
I was going to say, basically, it's one of the things that I love is when you see there's a LinkedIn post that's clearly created by AI and then 20 comments that have clearly been posted by AI. We've got a world where bots are talking to bots, and it's like, yes, we've all got high engagement. Because, and it's like, this post is very interesting. I really enjoy your take on this particular matter. And, you're looking at it kind of go, really?
Insert name here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
but
fun.
the point of social media, it doesn't matter if it's B2C or B2B, is trust and relationship. That's what brand building is. If we just strip down the jargon, that's what it is, right? Do we trust this brand or this person that's just saying this right now? And if we do, we're going to continuously engage with them. That's where the relationships come, right? And by having this disingenuous content, these fake relationships, so you can get more reach. It doesn't, by the way. The algorithm is pretty smart and it's gonna figure you out. But that actually goes against building your brand. That it looks, unless if you're in the market for fake bots, then that's great. But most people are looking for genuine people to work with, and genuine brands they can believe in, right? The reason why a body shop kind of got big, it wasn't because just the products were good, it's because there was an ethos behind it, right? The reason why Pret got big wasn't because their sandwiches are great, but also they have, they're always taking a step further than most brands, being proactive and being progressive with their food and their policies. That's brand building, right? And so I feel like a lot of marketers go, look at content, look at social, look at engagement as a metric they can hit. And as long as they hit that metric, it's fine. No, it's like you got to go beyond that. You've got to go to your roots, to your brand, to your values, right? That's where if you get it right, that those metrics will be meaningful. But if your content comes from a place where it's just like just for the sake of doing it, those metrics mean nothing.
Do you think it could kind of support, especially like we've spoke about ChatGPT and the tone being off, and obviously now there's the creation of sort of the custom GPTs where you can essentially train it to have the tone of voice and to get into the mindset of, for businesses, for example, that might want to have local accounts but don't have the capacity and can kind of bulk do posts if they've trained this GPT right. Do you think there's sort of any benefit to that, or to you is it sort of too much risk at the minute with storytelling and creativity?
I think it depends on who's in the driver's seat, because if you let ChatGPT be in the driver's seat, you gotta be a little careful of that. However, if you have a writer in, let's say, in each local country, and you enable them to use ChatGPT to speed up their creation of content, right? I think that's the useful part of AI right now, is that instead of me sitting there and going, "Oh, I'm so close. I know I need to write something about the shop opening. It needs to have this sentiment. It needs to make a reference to something local that just happened, right?" And I'm a small team in a big brand, and I don't have an army of junior writers. AI can be your junior writers. That's been incredible for content creators, in that it enables them to be more creative and expand their creativity faster than, sitting in a little cube like this. Like, trying to be creative is really hard by yourself. but all of a sudden you have in a sense an army of junior writers at your fingertips. That's what's helpful.
Agreed. Yeah. I guess kind of with social media, one of the most toxic parts of it and sort of things that businesses have to deal with is negativity and trolls, and it's just going to happen. So I guess, what are your top recommendations for managing these negative comments on things like Twitter, Instagram? Obviously, Facebook is quite a big one with that, TikTok.
Wow, trolls. Okay, so my relationship with trolls was a funny one. There's two things that you've got to, I guess, you've got to come to terms with. One is that when you are successful, you will get trolls. So in a way, it's a badge of honor. In a way, it's an achievement unlocked. It's like, we got trolls, like, yay! But now let's deal with it, right? Let's deal with it. I think the hard part for a lot of brands is when they don't have solid brand values to stand on. It makes it really hard for the team to understand how to respond to this, because it'll just be like, oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Oh. And it's sorry everywhere, right? But if you have brand values that you can stand on, there's a difference, right? So, when I was managing my team at Just Eat, I was also coaching the customer service team over there. And the guidelines we have for them was that it's to stand firm in our values, right? So if somebody challenged, let's say, our ad and go, "That's not funny," and we're like, "No, we're hilarious. I don't know what you're talking about," right? We're confident in that, right? We're also confident in that we are delivering a world-class service for our customers. So if something was to go wrong, we go, "We're going to do something for you," right? There's always an outlet. We're always working with our customers to solve that problem, right? So when so there's kind of like set guidelines into when to dial up that tone of voice, where you can be either not confrontational but confident in your brand, but also it's like, but when it comes to customer service, we need to dial up the quality of service as well, right? And so we can kind of deliver service with that cheeky tone of voice that we were known for, but also make sure that the customer is happy at the end of it. Because the point of social media here is to take a bad experience and turn it good, and take a good experience and turn it great, and that's how you can get advocates, right? So I think that's the approach I have with trolls. It's like, if you look at trolls and you go, is that person malicious? If it's malicious, then it's like, or if it's personal attacks, we don't stand for that. If they're attacking people in the comments, we don't stand for that, and we will make a stand and we go, you gotta stop this right now. I think an easy way to at least have some kind of expectations from your audience is to publish some kind of policy, right? And just go, we're here for, we're here to uplift each other, or to have fun or have positive interactions. But if there's any personal attacks, we don't stand for that, and we will delete that, right? And if there's written somewhere before, you can then reference that in your comments and go, hey guys, this is not on, this is getting a little far. Just a reminder for everybody that we don't stand for these personal attacks, right? And if this happens again, we're gonna have to ban you, because that's in the thing. You're playing in a field where you now understand what the policy is. And so that then leaves your community open to be themselves, but also understand the rules to respect each other.
Yeah, 100%. With sort of what you said about brands sort of knowing they're funny and taking that stance of being like, yes, we know this is our brand, and sort of leading with that. So obviously memes and newsjacking is quite popular in social media. So how would you say that businesses can incorporate those elements into their strategy while still staying authentic and relevant to the audience, like finding that balance?
That's a fascinating question, because I've worked in brands that newsjacking worked really well, and I've worked in brands where there was absolutely no were no place to be newsjacking, and it fell flat, right? And from that experience, I think it comes down to two things. One is that has the product or brand or service earned the right to be playful, to be so I mean I say it by two things. Is their product and service like, good in any way, are as good as they say it is? If it's not, if it's failing in the basic relationship they have with their customers, then you haven't earned the right to be funny. You haven't earned the right to newsjack and to do something more with your brand, because you're already failing in your basic relationship, right? And so make sure that is solid first before you start thinking, oh, can I be funny, or can I newsjack, or can I do something with this brand that's beyond, the expected relationship, right? um and the second thing I would say is it depends on your brand, uh to if you're able to do that, because um for Just Eat, if the legwork wasn't done with their "Don't Cook, Just Eat" campaign, I don't know if listeners are going to know about this, but it was a whole campaign where they hired a bunch of actors, and they went the whole advertising campaign was about them crashing into people's places where they're about to cook. They're like, "Don't cook, just eat," and just order it on the app. It's like, look how much easier this is. You can get like authentic Italian and French, and delivered to your door. You don't have to cook anything. And that set the character up for us to do really fun stuff on social media, because we can now crash into other people's social media feeds, and we can crash into other brands and have and be like and replicate that characteristic and that personality. We can then talk about newsjack television shows back in the day when everybody was third screen Twitter on TV shows like World Cup, and oh my God, we did Eurovision. That was so much fun, and we did we were just having fun with the audience, and it made sense because of the character of the brand. Whereas other brands that tried to do that, I remember a holiday brand tried to get in on the action on Eurovision, and it's like, I understand it can't because of the whole element of Eurovision and how many countries there are, but because they haven't done that legwork before, all of a sudden they come out of nowhere and they're trying to newsjack Eurovision. It's like, oh, you're not funny, and B, it's like it looks really odd when, you're like, holiday this, buy this, and all of a sudden, hey guys, let's have some fun. It's like, whoa, calm down. They don't engage with that because there's it's out of character for them, right? So I think before you even think about newsjacking, think about the character of your brand, think about the values of your brand, and if it's within that character, go for it. If it's not within character and that needs that and it's something you want to do desperately, then put the work in your brand first before you start newsjacking.
So you like the Posh and Beck's one?
I love the Posh and Becks one. That makes so much sense. That made a lot of sense. I think that first, it made a lot of sense for them to do it. It's just a parody of themselves, and to me, as a PR move for them, is such a great. Oh, look how relatable we are. Oh, LOL, we get it, right? And then for Uber Eats, it's not their first rodeo to the game, right? And first rodeo to the game. That I'm mixing metaphors. It's not their first rodeo, and it's not the first time in the game. But it made a lot of sense to for that ad.
Yeah, I have to be honest. I saw that advert because people were talking about it on Twitter or X, and I loved it. I thought it was one of the best ones around. Yeah, I mean, it is one of the best things where if somebody can do it and take themselves a little bit unseriously and actually play off it. I mean, Ed Balls still celebrates Ed Balls Day. I love that. There's some kind of classics in there. I think Natalia's too young to know what Ed Balls Day is, but those of us that have been in Twitter for 20 years is yeah, it's a tradition.
Don't worry, Natalia. It's not an OnlyFans campaign.
I'm glad. I am glad. The Super Bowl have followed suit as well with getting celebrities in the adverts. I don't know if you've seen the Friends one with Jennifer Aniston and and they kind of like act like they don't know each other. It's very good. So if we're sort of comparing brands, so people like Ryanair, Lidl, Greggs, how have their social media strategies differed, and what lessons can other businesses kind of learn from their approaches?
Like the ones you talked about, the Ryanairs and the Greggs. I put that in the same bracket as when I was at Just Eat and Paddy Power, where they're unapologetically themselves, right? Ryanair particularly, I feel like they go to a level where I I wish every brand can just even think about doing, because it's the same thing about what I talked about with Just Eat was confidence in your brand, in your tone. They sat around and they said, "This is us. If you don't like us, that's fine, right? We're not for everybody, right? In fact, we're gonna have fun with people who are having, who are not on board with this." Do I love the brand as a service, as a product? I kind of like having service when I'm on a flight. However, I love the idea that people are unapologetic about their brand, right? You've got, again, the work is done before you even send your first tweet or your first X or your first TikTok or your first reel. The work has to be done where you are understanding your brand so that it's so well rounded that you can see them as a person, right? Ryanair, you know what they are. Right? You know they're it's a guy who's just giving you the cheapest thing possible, cutting it as many corners as possible to get you from A to B, and they don't care how they do it. Right.
I very much enjoyed their tweet where they retweeted somebody who complained that they paid £12 for a window seat and that they didn't really get a window seat. That was one of the best tweets ever. It just totally went viral. I loved that. It was like, just read what you said. How much did you pay for this window seat? Yeah, perfect.
Right. And again, that was, they could do that because they've done the work, right? Can you imagine if, I don't know, if EasyJet did that? It wouldn't make any sense. And I think that a lot of brands look at the destinations that these brands have reached, and they're like, "Oh, cool, we want that too." We look at a Taco Bell, we want to be a Taco Bell, we want to be whatever, right? And they don't do the work, and they just immediately just jump into like, let's be funny, right? And the journey it took for that brand to reach to the point where they can be funny is not spoken about or understood. And that's when brands falter, or they go, "Oh, we tried," and just go back to being like nothing. When that's what I do actually with my B2B clients, with business leaders, is I kind of do an exercise that's very similar, where I call it a starter kit. I give them 8 questions and I understand them better, beyond just that transactional relationship, right? So it's asking questions like, why did you get into business? Why do people love you now? What do you bring to the table that your competitors don't do? And that helps me understand their character better and their values better. And then that's where the rich content comes from. That's where the content that engages and connects with people comes from, is that. And that's what I've learned from the Preston Just Eats of the world, is that's the work you need to do, right? Pret and Eat were identical companies. In fact, Eat was created by people that left Pret. The sandwiches look the same, the soups look the same, right? The whole business model looks almost identical. Yet one of them bought out the other at the end, because of brand, because of values, because Eat went in and said, "We're just going to look like them," but behind all of that lacked the core values that drove the business. So that's a literally edible example of what brand does.
Yeah. Talking about sort of connection, how would you say that sort of influencer marketing, it's up and coming, it's becoming sort of more popular than it ever has been? How can you say that local businesses can benefit from that, and the best way to approach their partnerships with influencers?
I think that we're in an exciting time with influencers, because there are the big ones, right? And there are, but there are more and more micro influencers, right? And with how the algorithms are going, we're now engaging people. We're not engaging. We're now rewarding people who have engaging content with little followers, right? And they start building their brand that way, right? I can get a TikTok from a guy who's got 3 followers. But if that piece of content is relatable, it's going everywhere, it'll get to me, right? And so I think that a lot of brands can do local marketing by kind of taking advantage of these micro influencers, right? Takes a bit of work, right? You might have to partner with an agency who really knows the space, but you find these micro influencers who are also appreciative of the opportunity to work for the brand, and you start getting them involved. I think that a lot of times might do more for your brand than taking a really big influencer and just chucking a lot of money at them. And yeah, I did, restaurants, for example, has been using these micro influencers in a great way. Just get them to come to have a meal, talk about it, right? And I think the key with working with influencers, for me in particular, is that I feel like a lot of brands trip in working with influencers when they try to dictate what the influencers need to do. You need to say this, you need to say this line, you need to do this at this time. And all of a sudden, you're working, you want to work with an influencer because they have influence literally on their audience, and they've been doing it in a certain way, and they know how to get to that audience. But the brand dictating how they do it just completely breaks that relationship apart, and it just feels like a disingenuous ad. And so that piece of content just becomes meaningless, and there's no engagement, and the reason why they got into partnership in the first place gets lost. So I would say is for anybody working with influencers is lean on your influencers, right? Give them a basic guideline of what needs to be done, but as the more you can stay away from their creative process, their content, the better, because they will find a way to land your brand better than you can even think of.
I agree with that completely. I've got to be honest, I'm using TikTok more than ever, basically, to like find places in London and other bits and pieces, which it's going to be the next question, of course. Is TikTok a search engine?
I think so. I think a lot of people, there are the purists that are like, no, it's not a search engine, blah blah blah. But someone I know, her daughter, when they went on holiday, her daughter, instead of searching on Google like, hey, what's there to do here, went there immediately to TikTok, right? And I thought that was the first time I thought, oh, A, I'm old. B, that's interesting, because we are now trusting this content more than we are trusting a blog post from Expedia, because this is people on the ground showing you the 5 places you can eat in Manchester. And not just that, they're showing videos. You can see the food, you can see the atmosphere, you can see all of that stuff in a 30-second video. And I think partly it's the experience is better, right?
Yep.
I don't have to like read this long post that somebody clearly keyword stuffed um, to find out if it's any good. I can actually see for myself, right? I can see from the engagement, I can see from the comments if people are excited, if people have been there and they're like, I love this place, blah blah blah, or this place is actually rubbish, they would actually put it on there as well. So all the stuff that we love about search is kind of condensed into this environment, and I kind of like it.
Yeah.
And I've kind of adapted that to some of my search as well. There are certain things that I will still go to Google for, as a classic search engine for. Um, but I think for stuff like food, for stuff like travel, for these things that need visual cues, I kind of go there, because it makes it easier for me to digest a whole bunch of information and kind of validate it quickly. And then actually, I will go back to the search engine and the old school search engine and validate it, right? And go, is this place actually good? Is it just full of tourists and just like is this legit, right? So for me, I feel like TikTok has become a search engine, and I don't think that people can deny that. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that it's almost the wrong question, which is weird for me actually asking what I would say is the wrong question. But I think that
You
what
set
we're
me up.
no, what I mean by that is that we basically like we use tools differently now. We use Google differently to how we did 5 years ago. I think kind of going as a search engine, it's like we use it to discover places in London. I mean, at the moment, one of the things I'm trying to do is improve my cooking, and the amount of cooks that I follow on TikTok, and I kind of look at it and kind of go, oh, this is brilliant, and everything else. It's a discovery engine. As I kind of go through it, I'll kind of go, oh, cool, this is what I should be doing in the gym. These are the people I should be following. And so, the way in which I used to use search engines, I use TikTok for, and vice versa. But it's more of a how we actually interact with search. So I also kind of completely agree with you. Like if I'm going traveling, I mean, when I went to Norway a few weeks back, first thing I did was I put places to see in Norway into TikTok. But then if I'm kind of looking for a hotel, I then actually go to kind of classic Google to kind of find the hotel that I can book and do all those bits and pieces. In fact, I'll go to hotels.com. I think we're kind of in a world now where we've got so many different verticals for the thing that we want that we don't necessarily. I mean, if I'm buying a product, I'll go straight to Amazon. So is Amazon a search engine? Is TikTok a search engine? Or is we just changing the way in which we start our journeys and end our journeys? But yeah.
I think that's it. That last bit is the thing that frustrated me the most when I first went from charity sector to commercial, like just getting paid properly for my skills, is that the funnel. Like we love a funnel, and we love simplifying the human experience into a triangle. And then we swear by it. It's like the Bible, and it's like, oh my God, it starts with the top funnel and it ends with the bottom funnel. How we're interacting with content now, particularly now, is more what a real experience is, which is sometimes we go search for it. Sometimes we discover it because it's served to us. Sometimes someone else says something and we go, oh, cool, we heard it. And immediately, sometimes we would just buy it off without going through a funnel. Right. And I think that that's what TikTok is to search or to discovery, is that sometimes we'll search for it. Sometimes it gets served to us. Sometimes a friend will tag us. Right. So yeah, that's what you said at the end there, I feel like applies very well.
Natalia, I think there's a word for that. What's it called? The messy funnel or something? I've forgotten.
The messy funnel.
I'll remember it afterwards, and I'll edit it in that I said a really intelligent answer of what that's called. Cool. Okay, next one. Alternatives to Twitter, because everyone's like, we're leaving Twitter, and no one actually did. But are you on Blue Sky? Are you on? I've forgotten what all the others are called. What's the Threads? Yeah. I keep forgetting. Someone sends me a link to Threads, and I'm like, I forgot about that. I've got an account there somewhere.
Yeah, same, right? I'm like, every time I go, the only time I go on Threads is when Instagram tells me somebody posted on Threads. I go, okay, maybe I'll check that out. But Threads has not been the Twitter killer as it was first build as. I think that it's not built to be that. And I think that I really mourn the old Twitter, because I loved it, because it was helpful. It was you can build a helpful community around you. You can jump in on any community that you find interesting. When do you remember the riots in London? That was my go-to source for information, because by the time somebody wrote about it on the news, it was too late. I needed to know where was safe, and Twitter was doing it real time. I don't know if anywhere else really kind of does that job right now. TikTok kind of does, but then you got to think about, if they're shooting it, streaming the video live, or if they're creating a video, then they still got to like edit it slightly and upload it. It's not nearly as fast as going, watch out for this spot, right? So I really mourn that a lot. Is there a replacement for Twitter? I don't know. I actually find what I enjoy the most from old school Twitter is happening on LinkedIn. And this isn't because I'm now working on LinkedIn, but this is part of the reason why I've kind of shifted my focus on LinkedIn, is because I'm actually enjoying myself in this space.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying exactly that. You know, you're not the only person to say that. A lot of people are shifting over to LinkedIn for that kind of, particularly in our sector, which is digital marketers. Digital marketers are kind of shifting over and finding more engagement, more positivity, more everything. So yeah, totally agree with you.
Yeah, it's the only gripe I have with LinkedIn is it's just not as easy to hashtag digital marketing or hashtag Brighton SEO, right? And it just find everybody from there. I think that is harder to kind of discover that community. However, once you get all of them, into your who you follow, and if they follow you, your feed starts changing into something that's actually meaningful. Your feed starts turning into people you want to interact with, and that's how you get that community and those opportunities for you and your brand is getting that community together.
So one more question. Going on LinkedIn, do you still have to put the link in the second comment? It's like, what is that? Why you can't put a link? Like, I want to put something on LinkedIn. I want to do a post, do a link, job done. But everyone says you've got to put it into the comment.
I don't know where that came from. I think that's kind of so I think it comes down to the rules of storytelling on LinkedIn, right? Because if you think about what LinkedIn wants, any app wants you to do is to engage with the content and stay on that platform for as long as possible, right? And the way for people to do that on LinkedIn is to discover content and digest, whether it's like a concept or a new way of working or discovering new people to work with, digest that information and interact on the platform itself. On average, a person spends about 7 minutes and 38 seconds on LinkedIn. So it's not a heck of a lot of time. And so if you just throw a link onto, as your post, you go, hey, look, I wrote a blog. It's like, I don't want to spend my 7 minutes and 38 seconds on your 4,000 word blog, right? Because I want to scroll. I want to digest more stuff, right? And the key to getting your message across on LinkedIn, especially if you're invested in long form content, is to understand that you need to break that long form content into short stories, right? The power of LinkedIn isn't to go, I can get 1,000 people to click on this to go to my website. The power of it is I got 1,000 people that's firing up this app, and every time they fire this app, I'm on their feed, and I'm meaningful, and I'm saying something useful, and all of a sudden I got a week of interaction for them going, oh, he knows what he's talking about. And by the time they need your services, the time they need they need local marketing, or they need to help with their personal brand on LinkedIn, that's the only person they'll think of, because you've been spending time with them and you've been meaningful to them all this time. That's the power of it for me.
Brilliant. I don't think I've got any more questions. Natalia, you got any?
No, all good.
Cool. I think the one question is, do you think there's going to be any future in the metaverse?
Is it still a thing?
Oh, no, I don't know. Every time I think to myself, everyone talks about the metaverse, and it's like, what actually is it? We don't really know, but it's definitely coming.
Yeah, I mean, it's Zuckerberg's like, we're going to change our entire company name for this. And I don't know what the metaverse is, but I do think that we're getting closer to a space and time where computing and real life is merging even more and more, right? It's the same. This is pretty close already, right? In that every day we pick it up and we don't even think about it, right? The cross between we used to have to like turn on the computer, then tell our parents to get off the phone so that we can put a modem in and get on the internet. That was a lot of work, right? We're getting now closer and closer to the space where we throw, it's goggles now, but it will be a pair of glasses. It will be Google glasses as it should be. And we'll just walk around interacting with stuff, and we won't even think about it. We won't have to fire up a laptop to do a podcast. We'll just be sitting somewhere, just like double tapping, and we're in. Right?
Yep.
So yeah, it's not the metaverse. It's just kind of real life.
Yep.
It's just technology enabling the digital aspects of it becoming more integrated with real life.
Yeah, augmented reality. Very soon, we'll see you driving down the road in your Tesla and your goggles on, and it's going to be the future.
I can't wait because, I don't, I'm just getting more bags under my eyes and I just hide it. It's great.
Awesome. So if people want to find out more about Anthony, how do we pronounce the surname?
Oh, you can try it. Go ahead.
Anthony.
No,
Okay, so if we
learn-
find you again in the future, it's Mean Right Hook on LinkedIn, Twitter.
yeah, Mean Right. Yeah, search for Mean Right Hook. MEANWRITE It's a pun on, it's a mix between my love my love for puns and my love for mixed martial arts. And yeah, it's I the name came from that, and also I firmly believe that all good ideas come from good writing first and foremost. It's whether it's a post, whether it's an email, whether it's a website, whether it's a video, it comes from good writing. So that's where your Me Right Hook comes from. But yeah, look for Me Right Hook on LinkedIn. I put Anthony Leung Me Right Hook. You'll find me there. You'll find my company page too. You can find me on Twitter. I kind of have to blow the dust off of that, but I'm still kind of there. And you can find me on Instagram. But yeah, I look forward to chatting with anybody who needs with help with LinkedIn. I can even give away the starter kit if you connect with me. So it'll get you on your way to thinking about what content you is actually valuable to you as you build your personal brand. But hit me up.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
If you want to hear more from local experts, along with Natalia and myself, then please like and subscribe, or visit us on miradorlocal.com/local lift to find out more.